Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mathison Talks, where we discuss tech and everything in between. My name is Mike Vega, and I'm joined by our very own CEO, Jacob Mathison. Hello, Jacob.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me on again.
Thank you. Quick note, we'd love to hear your comments as we're always checking our Twitter and LinkedIn at Mathison Talks. This episode has been sponsored by Mathison Projects, Inc., a web development company. Today, we'll be talking about food waste and sustainability with Somdip Dey. He's a PhD graduate and a lecturer at the University of Essex and CEO of Nosh Technologies, an award-winning food tech company offering AI-powered food management to reduce food waste in the household. Welcome, Somdip, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jacob, for having me. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, thank you.
I'm doing quite well myself.
So, Somdip, I was watching your TED Talk, and something that struck me when you describe yourself, it was as an on-device embedded artificial intelligence scientist. Okay, in layman's terms, can you describe what this means, and more importantly, what drove you to pursue this career?
Absolutely, Mike. Although I am sure that a lot of people have similar questions, because throughout my career, a lot of people did ask me that, okay, what is on-device embedded artificial intelligence? Now, traditionally, when it comes to artificial intelligence modeling, we develop the model mostly for, let's say, general purpose computing in mind or cloud-based computing system in mind. But given this increase in smartphone devices, especially embedded systems around the world, so currently we have more than 6 billion smartphone users around the world, and that's increasing every year. So the same artificial intelligence model could also be implemented, especially for training and inference purposes, in embedded system as well. Now, when we implement the artificial intelligence model in such a way that it is capable of either training or inferencing or both on the embedded platform, that is usually called on-device embedded artificial intelligence.
That's actually really cool to hear. And being an owner of an IT company myself, one of the things that are often approached to me by my developers is, all right, what is the next step to go from being a developer into artificial intelligence? And of course, I can point them to AWS machine learning or TensorFlow, but I opted to start a business as opposed to go deeper into artificial intelligence. What would you tell aspiring developers if they wanted to start entertaining going down a path that you did?
Absolutely, Jacob. So honestly, there is no right or wrong way of approaching or going into the field of AI or artificial intelligence, because apart from being CEO and like an executive of a food management company, I'm also a lecturer at the university. Now, several students who come into computer science, they have prior or some software engineering background. And there are students who come to the university with zero knowledge of programming or developing any software, but yet they are very much interested into going into the field of AI. Now, that's why I mentioned that there is no right or wrong way of approaching AI. So when you want, let's say, first of all, it would depend on how you want to implement AI in either a business setting or in application setting. So once the person has identified, okay, I want to implement an AI model for this and this purpose, then the person can find up materials, especially on how to approach that application. And then he or she or they are able to progress through there. Now, my journey has been a bit different into the field of AI, especially in embedded artificial intelligence is so back in 2014, when I was doing my master's in the UK, my parents back in India, they went through a tragic accident, and my father got paralyzed through that accident. Now, after graduating with my master's, then I went to work in the industry as a software engineer. Now, at that point, I still didn't have any knowledge of how to actually code artificial intelligence, let alone embedded artificial intelligence. But through the years, so fast forward to 2018, till that point, the doctors back in India who were treating my father, they just gave up hope. So I started doing research on, okay, how can we rehabilitate paralyzed patients in India more effectively? Then I found out that in US and UK, they have developed exoskeleton, robotic exoskeleton that are capable of rehabilitating effectively and allow completely immobile, paralyzed patient to be mobile again. But the biggest issue with such robotic exoskeletons were because they were so cutting edge, especially the AI models that are being used in such technology, they are so cutting edge that the expense to build such a technology is like not affordable for people back in India. So given this problem, then I started further pursuing research on, okay, how can I build AI model effectively and more efficiently, which are affordable at the same price. So then I came across a funded PhD position at the University of Essex, where they basically, like my research was focusing on embedded artificial intelligence uh, for improved performance and less energy consumption. And it just matched with the goal that I had, that I wanted to build a robotic exoskeleton for paralyzed patient, which is far more affordable than what was existing. And that's how I moved from being a software engineer in the industry to the academia, where I started pursuing my research on AI, especially embedded AI. So my story itself gives a snapshot to any developer today that you don't have to have prior experience in AI for say. But again, if you have a project in mind, or if it actually fits your goal in future, then you can learn it as you go and become an expert as well.
So, what I'm seeing here is, or what I'm hearing rather, is your motivation was family, and, that's very noble of you to kind of see that as an opportunity to learn more, and everybody is motivated for different reasons, but, you wanted to take care of your father, and that kind of pursued you or motivated you to really dive into the field of AI. You mentioned 2018 where you developed these different systems. Where along during this path did you get into this digital QR authentication system? Because I am aware that institutions pick this up, right? And how hard was it for you to convince these institutions to implement this QR system?
Thank you so much, Mike. Actually, this brings back a memory way back, like over a decade ago. So used to be a cybersecurity researcher before I moved into the field of AI. So I started pursuing research in the first year of my undergraduate degree. So one of my professors back in the university in India, he discovered that I was decent enough to code and I can come up with ideas which were a bit different from what traditionally people would do. So my research back during my undergraduate study used to be focused on building encryption systems and also methodology to hide data in images securely so that they could be uh, shared with other people while while maintaining security and privacy. Now, that was back in 2009 when I started my cybersecurity research. So fast forward 2012 when I was graduating from my undergraduate degree, then I wanted to learn or move into the field of computer systems engineering, where I could build up computer systems, not just software, but both hardware and software co-designing. Now, when I was applying for my master's in abroad, so used to be back in India while my undergraduate study, but when I was applying for my master's in UK and US, then I realized that whenever you apply for a university, you actually have to, especially postgraduate studies, you actually have to share your original mark sheets or like transcripts and degree certificate with each university that you are applying. Now, back in India, many universities would charge you for each copy of transcripts and degree. So, given it's still progressive, like India is a progressive developing country, it wasn't feasible for most students to apply to uh, foreign universities for postgrad because the cost of application is high, along with all the requirements related to it. So then I was thinking, okay, how can I build up a system, even if it might not help me, but I want other students who are graduating after me not to suffer like me. So I came up with the idea of, okay, why not use QR code that would be embedded on the degree certificate or transcripts of the student when they graduate, and that will have the encrypted data of the student, which could be verified using a system by anyone on the planet. That could be, let's say, other universities or an employer. So after I developed this, I like intellectual property. I published it open source, through research paper. And when that happened, suddenly, like within a year, like people were getting in touch with me from universities, even companies like entrepreneurs who were like, okay, I found your paper and I think this could be used to like eradicate fake degrees that are being created, because on fake degrees it's very difficult to have authentic students information on that degree, right? So it just got a life of its own, and surprisingly, like now it has its own industry. So honestly, looking back 13 years ago when I was doing or pursuing this research, I would have never thought that that work would create an industry that is today eradicating fake degree certificates around the world.
That is absolutely amazing. Jacob, you want to say something?
Yeah, I am absolutely amazed by such an innovation. And it really got my brain thinking of, you know what, if it works for big educational institutions, can it be repurposed for smaller businesses to be able to validate documents that are being sent external of their organization in the same vein, or is it kind of limited in scope?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, over the years, I did find that a lot of other intellectual properties who have tried to use my methodology, but for business sense. So when, let's say, company to company document sharing happens, or company to government, or vice versa, where document sharing and authenticating whether the document is like real or not, same methodology could also be used for that purpose as well. But personally, I'm not sure whether there has been an industry there, because there are many companies who are using other form of 2D barcode for the same purpose. But the reason I chose QR code for degree certificates, especially because QR code compared to any other form of 2D certificate, no, sorry, 2D barcode, is capable of holding much more data and has a much better error correction or error handling. So for that reason, because a student might have a lot of record going into their transcripts, and the QR code is able to incorporate or embed all those data in a secure way as well. So yeah, but that being said, I have myself seen other intellectual property citing mine where they have used the case for business purposes or government purposes as well.
That is so cool. Okay, so this is just the first thing that you've worked on, and it's sprouted a whole industry. Now, I want to move further along, and I'd like to talk about Kodipi. Is that how you pronounce it? Kodipi?
So internally, we used to call it Kodipi. Sorry, they didn't mean to be condescending in any way, but it's because so it's a mix between code, E, Pi. So Pi here stands for Python because we used to use Python as our like main language within the company. So we started as a hackathon group back in Manchester when I was doing my master's. But within the hackathon group, we used to use Python. And so it's more like code space E space PY. So coding in Python, but we kind of played around with that name, and later we incorporated a company called Kodipi.
That's actually super clever. Okay, Kodipi, there we go. And so that was pretty much the world's first crowdsourced food sharing platform. I mean, which is amazing in itself. Can you describe the platform a little bit more and how you even had this idea?
Absolutely, Mike. Thank you for asking this one because to be fair, this story brings back memory, which is a bit emotional for me. So again, as I mentioned, back in 2014, when my parents went through the car accident back in India, when I was doing my master's in the UK. Now, when the accident happened, so my parents needed money to not just sustain, but also go through medical treatment back in India. And during my master's, I used to do multiple part-time jobs within the university. So when they needed the money, so I sent back everything I had from my savings, my current account, back to them so that I could support them. But after I sent back the money to them, then I realized that I didn't have money to buy food for myself for almost like a week. And I wouldn't get paid till the end of that week. So I wasn't sure, okay, how am I going to manage to sustain without any food in a foreign country? And I didn't have or do not have any relative back in the UK from whom I could get any help or support. And being an international student, you can also, at that time, couldn't go to food bank to ask for food. So I actually ended up doing dumpster diving in that week. So I went to dumpsters. I noticed at that time I used to live in student accommodation, which was thankfully prepaid. So I didn't have to think about paying for my rent. But because I didn't have money to buy food, so around that time, some of the people were moving away from student accommodation, and they were literally throwing away completely edible food like apples, oranges, bananas in the bin because they didn't want to carry it back home or wherever they are going. So I would sneak out at night, go to the dumpsters, pick up the edibles that are still consumable, and bring them back home. And I survived for 1 week on that. Now, after I completed my master's, at the end of 2014, then our Kodipi hackathon group, we came across one of the world's largest hackathon back then. It used to be called coding. global hackathon, global virtual hackathon. That was like 2014 coding global virtual hackathon, where they were giving away prizes for different verticals and for different purposes as well. So I just came up with the idea, okay, I know how to code or I know how to build technology. And I personally went through the challenge of food waste where I was hungry, yet there were people who were throwing away food that is perfectly consumable. So I pursued my team. I told them, hey, how about we build a web application that is capable of allowing the user of the platform to share their food with other people nearby who might need those food, or to share the food with nearby food banks. Everybody loved the idea, and we built it like over 2 days of the hackathon, and we also won the hackathon challenge. So we won, I think there were 1,800 different teams. So among them, we won the 3 scale API award from the coding hackathon. But one thing at that time, so I didn't really think about being entrepreneurial. So because I myself went through the issue of food waste and hunger, and I didn't want to make money from other people's unfortunate times. So what we did, instead of commercializing the platform, we made it open source, like on GitHub. And the following couple of years, then we noticed that many entrepreneurs kind of got inspired from that platform, and they built their own platform, like adopting our technology. So that's how it like started back then.
I'm noticing a theme here, and it seems like is this like extreme necessity that motivates you almost to like create these noble causes, like these noble platforms, right? And you're using your knowledge and your skills for good. I'm super flabbergasted by what you've been able to accomplish. Jacob, you had something to say?
Yeah, it was just very, very interesting to hear a little bit of where you came from, because it's actually not a story I tell many other people, but hunger was a common feature that I experienced, and I lived and died by food banks. And you mentioned about being unable to get to food banks, which struck me a little bit as odd, mostly because the experience I had when I went to food banks is I went to a church. I asked them for where are the nearest food banks. They gave me a list of all the food banks in the city, and on top of that, the schedules. And then I went out and grabbed whatever food I could to sustain myself in order to survive. I'm not as strong as you in saying, hey, I'm hungry. Let's build an app so that other people don't have to. But I guess the question comes down to why was it that hard for you to access a food bank at that time? Because there's a little bit of a disconnect in my mind of our two experiences.
Great point, Jacob. So actually, it comes down to two different, let's say, reasons, I would say. First of all, is actually I'm not that brave, or I didn't used to be that brave back then. So I made several friends during my master's. Now, actually, since those friends are aware that what I went through, so I wasn't vocal about my experience doing dumpster diving to collect food till, let's say, 2017 or 2018, is because I didn't want my friends to see me in a light where I owed them. I never owed anyone in my life. Like even when I went for all my universities, I worked at the same time and I paid for my tuition fees. If I didn't get scholarship for some of them, or took a loan on myself. But when it comes to person, or especially friends, I don't like to owe anyone. Because somehow I feel like it might sour the relationship. So when I was going through that tough situation, I did not ask for money to buy food from any of my friends, because I was thinking, okay, no, what if he or she might think me in a different way. So there was definitely bit of stigma going around in my mind back then. But apart from that, because back in 2014, I was still on student visa in the UK. So I was studying on student visa. Now I was on tier 4 student visa, which does not allow me to get any form of public benefit, even from food banks back then. I did pop into a food bank and they asked, okay, do you have a British passport or do you have a citizenship? So I said no. And they said, unfortunately, we can't help you out, but you can try out the, let's say, churches around the area. Now, University of Manchester, where I did my master's, they had two, I would call it faith centers. So we have one church and the other one is a mosque. Now, they used to, or they still actually do soup runs, but not every day. It's only one or twice a week. So again, they didn't used to give away food like every day where or when I can go and ask for it. So because in the meantime, I noticed that like people were just throwing away completely consumable food, and I could just sneak out at night where nobody would see me. So I I just chose that method. But again, to your question, like when I was on my tier 4 student visa, I was not able to get any like food from the food banks. At least in Manchester, that's where I tried. So I'm not sure about the rest of the UK, but that was the case for me, which brought me to some extreme actions on my end. But again, like I'm glad I went through it. Looking back now, at that time it used to be embarrassing for me, but now looking back, I'm proud that I did it because it also gave me an idea that kind of started like a big movement, I would say. So right now, if you look into most of the food waste reduction technologies out there, they are like based on the technology that I've built back in 2014. So I'm proud of what I went through today. Like today, I'm proud of what I went through back then, but I wouldn't change it for anything else.
Well, I, for one, feel like that's a horrible policy that they should change that. I mean, they shouldn't discriminate against, whether you have legitimate, citizenship or not. If somebody's hungry, you should be able to give them something, right? But, and if we're looking at a positive light, hey, it sprouted, this kind of commitment for you to not have anybody else be in the same position as you. So you did great work there, man. So I got to give you a huge applause, for doing that. And fast forward to present day, you're now CEO at Nosh Technologies, which is super cool. What you guys are doing, like from what I understand, you're using machine learning to reduce food waste. Like, how exactly are you reducing food waste?
Thank you, Mike, again for the amazing question. So I would like to point out something. Like if you see the food waste statistics since, let's say, 2014 till today, what you would notice today, we have a lot of technology. We have a lot of different apps that are helping us to reduce food waste. But at the same time, if you look at these statistics, you will find out we at the current moment, we still end up wasting 1.3 billion tons of food, whereas 1 out of 9 people go to bed hungry every night. Moreover, the total food waste contributes to almost 10% of global carbon emissions. So when you look at the food waste statistics over the years, you will notice even after having so many technologies out there, the statistics have not gone down. They have gone like scaled up as our population is growing. So this definitely proves that something is going wrong along the way, right? So, or else what's the point of having technology if the statistics doesn't change or doesn't go down? So in 2020, when the pandemic took over the world, And you might have remembered that we used to have a limited schedule of when we could go out to shop for food, or how many times we could actually buy food from the shops or supermarket. So what that made people do is people would overbuy food, and because they are overbuying food for the whole week or two, now when you put stuff, all those food items in the fridge, then people started to get more food wastage in the household. And given that I built the technology that helps people to reduce food waste, and I've been following food waste from a personal perspective as well over many years. So, and at that time, I was also doing my PhD research on embedded machine learning. I asked myself, okay, what can I do to help in this situation? And that's when I decided, okay, I gathered a couple of people from around the world within my network, and I told them, hey, I have got an idea. What do you think about this? We did market research as well. And everybody said, wow, okay, no, it makes sense that there is a possibility this could help people to reduce food waste. So what we ended up sketching on the drawing board is a holistic, so a mobile application that provides a holistic food waste reduction at household level. So it's not just about being able to share your food with other people. So when you share your food with other people, of course, you're reducing waste, but at the same time, you're wasting money because you have already paid for the food. You have invested in the food itself. So if you share your food, yes, at a social level, you're doing good, but at a personal level, you are wasting your own money in a way. So you are generally not reducing waste as for say, you're just shifting waste. So what we came up with, the idea of the application, which is Nosh, is okay, how we can build features that first helps consumer to optimize their food consumption. And then in case they do end up with some food waste, they can still able to share that with other people or use it in a beneficial way so that they can get at least something out of that. But the main goal is helping consumer to reduce food waste in the first place, so that they can also save money and they can also reduce carbon emission. Now, that being said, one of the things that we learned that if the consumer have a data-driven way to understand how they are consuming food or how they are wasting food over the weeks, then they can become more conscious. So we've developed the in-app, like Nosh has the in-app data analytics platform where the consumer can keep track of how they're consuming or wasting food throughout the week, so that the next time when they go out to buy food, they can first look at the analytics and also do in-app shopping planning. So they can create shopping plan within the app itself. And after they have done that, they can just, based on that shopping plan, they can go out and buy the food that's only required for them for that week. In this way, we are helping them to save money and at the same time save food.
Jacob?
This is really cool, and the ideas and the objective behind it is incredibly exciting, and the opportunities of improving the quality of life of so many people with what you're doing is awe-inspiring. And immediately my first thought, as someone who believes that companies and people and organizations, if they have the means, should take some level of social responsibility, is there any way that any private organization could actually support your mission in helping share food?
Absolutely. Actually, currently we have partnered with several shops in Essex in the UK, with whom we have partners, so whenever they get any excess surplus food, they can either share it or sell it through our platform at a discounted price. Now, over the almost 3 years now, we are going to reach 3 years since we launched our first MVP of the Nosh, but we are still kind of always iterating over the app with new features and new ways to interact with the app itself. So right now, the Nosh comes in three distinct services. The first service is the food management, where consumer are able to manage their food better and also how to manage their own consumption. So that they can reduce food waste, reduce carbon emission, and also save money. The second service is so consumer can directly get news and media content related to food industry as well as food wastage and sustainability right through the app, because we are aware of food waste related issues. But the thing is, since we do not get or like regular update, since we do not get regular update about what's actually going on when it comes to food wastage or sustainability, though we are aware that food wastage is an issue, we might not take direct action. But through this Nosh Daily news and media content delivery platform in the Nosh app, consumer are more aware of what is going on when it comes to food wastage around the world, so that they can consciously and proactively take steps in order to be able to reduce food waste. And the third service that Nosh app provides today is the Nosh Shop, where consumer can buy about to expire food at an affordable price, and at the same time they can feed the hungry and malnourished people around the world through every purchase. Now, the Nosh Shop currently is not available globally. It's only available in Essex, in the UK, because we are still doing an extensive pilot study while partnering with some of the food vendors in Essex itself. But that being said, yes, absolutely. So if you are a food vendor or if you are a farmer, we want you to partner with us so that you can reduce food waste at your retail level or at your company. And at the same time, you are doing good for the whole environment and the society.
So on the food management side, and I'm looking at it from the perspective of, downloading the app, and I go to the grocery store and let's just make it easy. I buy 10 bananas. At the end of the week, from what I understand is I would input how many bananas I have left. So let's say I have 5 bananas left. I only ate one a day. So is that kind of how it works? And then it goes into the system and it would tell me, okay, you only used 5 bananas, you bought 10. How about you buy only 5 the next week? Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, very close. Like almost 99%, Mike, you mentioned how the feature, the food management feature of Nosh works. Just to give a bit more elaboration on that point. So let's say even before you go out to buy the food, let's say in your mind, you might have an idea, okay, this week I want to buy 10 bananas. So within the app, you have in-app shopping planning. So you just write down, okay, I need 10 bananas. Then you go to the shop and you buy the 10 bananas, and you can add the item either using like manual mode where you can type it out, or you can just use scan the barcode or even scan receipt to track the item on the Nosh app. Now, throughout the week, when you are consuming them, you can mark how much you have consumed. And let's say when you reach the end of the week, you see that 5 of them, only like 5 out of 10 you have consumed. And then there's still 5 left. So, and it might have become ripe that you might not be willing to consume them. Although there are also other ways. Let's say just because you have ripe banana, I know some of my friends don't like to eat them and they somehow end up throwing it. So I told them, okay, why not? So within the food management also, you have an option to, which is it gives you recipe suggestions. on the item that you have. So, like let's say you have consumed 5 banana out of 10, and the 5 one you are thinking of throwing it away because you might not like to eat very ripe banana. So what you can do, you can go to the recipe suggestion and see what other food items you can make, or food dishes you can make from those bananas. It could be banana bread. So you just make banana bread out of those ripe bananas instead of throwing it away. And you get these recipe suggestions directly from the Nosh app as well. And from there, again, you can, when you are going out to buy the food next time, because you have the data that how much you are consuming and how much you're wasting, so you can now make a more data driven decision of what to put in your shopping list for the next week.
All right, that is so cool, man. Like, I got to give you guys, like, hats off to you guys. Like, how do you even think about something so intricate? You mentioned machine learning, and I don't really know much about machine learning, so I kind of want to ask, like, what is machine learning exactly, and how does the machine learning technology come into play to develop apps like this?
Absolutely, Mike. So I will take a very brief step backward. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, so artificial intelligence is a field of science, technology, and psychology. So it's a kind of uh, somewhere in between, mixing all these different scientific fields. So using these different scientific fields, our goal is to build a machine that is capable of being intelligent like their human counterpart. So that's what artificial intelligence or AI does, or what that field means. Now, within artificial intelligence, we have the subfield, which is machine learning. Now, machine learning is the science and technology where we make the machine more intelligent based on the data that we feed it. And that usually works by understanding different patterns from the data. So machine learning algorithms or machine learning models are superb at understanding or realizing different patterns from data, which human beings might not be able to determine given if it's a huge amount of data that is provided. But machines using machine learning are capable of understanding those patterns very easily. Now, because machine learning algorithm, they thrive on data. So the more data you can give, they will interpret or infer something better. Now, what happens right now, if most people, when they think about machine learning or artificial intelligence, most people think about big companies like Google, Meta, or Facebook, previously known as. So these companies, and Amazon. So these companies are expert in the field of machine learning. But when it comes to, let's say, the biggest issue that happens on the consumer side is when these companies implement machine learning model on their systems, the issue happens that these machine learning models are actually working on the consumer data, which are stored or kept on the server of these big companies. So what happens when these models, machine learning models, work on user data, which is on the server side of the companies, they often threaten the privacy of the user. So you will see over the years, we have had several data leaks from big companies. Then we have also had abuse by Meta's advertisement campaign, like abuse of the consumer data. So machine learning model often open up privacy related issues for the consumer itself. So another cool thing about embedded machine learning or on-device embedded machine learning is that because the machine learning model that could be trained or inferred on the embedded devices, so you do not need to exchange the data from the consumer to your company server. So given my PhD research was in embedded machine learning or embedded AI, so what we did, we developed that data analytics based like AI model on the smartphone of the user. So this branch of like this subfield of embedded machine learning or machine learning in general is called federated learning, where the machine learning model sits on the consumer side. It learns from the consumer's data on the consumer side without like sharing any consumer data to the server. But the model, after it has inferred, it can share the knowledge from the consumer data back to the server to do further processing. In this way, we do not have to share any consumer data, and yet we are maintaining their privacy. But at the same time, we get the job done, which any other machine learning model will be able to achieve. So at Nosh Technologies, keeping all the privacy issues that machine learning brings out of the big companies, at Nosh Technologies, we ended up developing like this new form of machine learning algorithm that keeps the consumer data as private as possible.
That is so cool. I mean, okay, so what you're saying pretty much is like, let's say I want to buy 10 bananas, but from your machine learning, it would tell me on the app, oh, you know what? People tend to only buy 5 bananas. They only eat 5 bananas, but also maintain that privacy so that Nosh Technologies wouldn't say, oh, this person only buys 5 bananas or this person only buys 10 bananas. Do I kind of got that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to give you a bit more in-depth example, so let's say, Mike, you go to 7-Eleven at XXX uh, Santa Claus Street in LA to buy your 10 bananas. Okay. Your phone might be getting that exact pinpoint where you bought it from. But our machine learning model, first of all, it learns that you bought 10 bananas from this place, but it learns that along with other food items that you might have bought or other food items you might have wasted. Now, what it does, our machine learning model is it learns from that data, and then let's say after it has learned from it, it will tell the server that uh, a person, not Mike, but a person who lives in LA have consumed 5 out of 10 bananas and ended up wasting 5 bananas. But the server would only know that some person in LA, not that, let's say, XXX Santa Claus Street, but from LA has consumed or wasted some bananas, and that's it. But the model is still able to understand that in a region, how much food is consumed or wasted, but cannot connect that data to one person.
On a global scale, I mean, just this app alone, I feel could solve world hunger. This is like groundbreaking technology. It's crazy. Jacob?
Yeah, I was thinking like, holy smokes, if this can get onto a certain scale, societies and civilizations and governments can build sane policies around food security, especially during this year where there was a lot of food insecurity across the globe, courtesy of the crisis in Ukraine right now.
Thank you so much, guys.
Somdip, do you foresee any applications of this being able to be turned to be a utility by the government or much bigger picture enterprises than where it's currently at scale? Because the way it's sounding, the possibilities are endless.
Absolutely, Jacob. By the way, thank you so much for the kind words. And that is the goal. So my personal goal that if before I die or leave planet Earth, if I could solve food waste and hunger issues, I would still feel that I have done something for the world. And that's my purpose. That's how I see my purpose on this planet, beautiful planet. That being said, so at Nosh, we have developed so many amazing intellectual property related to how to reduce food waste. Like beginning of this year, we created an intellectual property called Smart Nosh Waste. So that's the world's first machine learning based blockchain platform that reduces waste throughout the food supply chain, not just at consumer level or just at retail level, but throughout the supply chain, starting from farm to the fork, like to the table. Uh, and currently, at Essex or in the UK, we are partnering with several different institutes, although we have not reached out to government yet. But we are partnering with several different institutes to continue growing and developing our intellectual properties in the area so that it could be used throughout the world to reduce waste and also hunger as well. That being said, we have also made our some of the intellectual properties like Smart Nosh Waste, and we created another intellectual property where we are digitizing all food data throughout the supply chain so that it can be easily accessible for a consumer or anyone in the supply chain to for food security purposes. So we made all these intellectual property available so that anyone in any country, like let's say it could be farmers or it could be government from any country, they could use our code and build up their agri-tech, like agricultural infrastructure, so that they can continue the fight to reduce food waste and also eradicate hunger in the long term.
What you guys are doing, I mean, I hats off again. On behalf of humanity, I want to thank you so much. Seriously, what you guys are doing is next level stuff, and it's that you can do good with programming, with machine learning. It doesn't always have to be nefarious, which a lot of people have this implication that it is rather. So I'd like to thank you so much for joining us, Somdip. And for those interested, where can people contact you, learn more about your company, and also the name of the app? Because I'm not kidding, I'm gonna download it right now.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Mike and Jacob, for again inviting me to share our story on how we are leveraging technology to reduce food waste. And I think we should be encouraging other developers and software engineers and programmers throughout the world that technology can be used for good, and that's how it should be used. So it's onto us that we teach the next generation of coders that hey, technology is cool, technology is sexy, and technology can be used for improving the society. So I hope that we can continue sharing this message to the next generation of computer scientists and programmer so that they can join in the fight to improve our society and environment in the long run. That being said, if you are interested to get in touch with me, then you can reach out to me via email, which is dey, DEY, at the rate nosh.tech. And you will also find me on different social media with my first name and last name, which is Somdip Dey. At the rate at the rate Somdip Dey. That's my username in most of the social media channels, but only Facebook. My username is Dey Somdip, so it just reverses. And you can also look for our company Nosh Technologies, and you will find all the relevant social media platforms and website. And our app is called Nosh Food Management, or just Nosh app. Or if you want to add more keywords, you can just do Nosh app food waste reduction. You will be able to find our app online. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time. And again, a huge thank you. What you're doing here, it's going to go on for, I could predict decades, centuries. It just, this is what I feel is like what machine learning is for. And this is coming from someone that really doesn't have a lot, doesn't learn or doesn't know a lot from machine learning. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so much, Jacob.
So for our listeners, if you have any feedback, suggestions, or just want to comment on the subject, be sure to check out our Twitter at Mathison Talks. And we also have a new Discord. So if you'd like to join the discussion, you can find it at MathisonTalks.com/Discord. And don't forget to share. Thank you so much.